Haunted House is a title that will no doubt provoke memories from many people. When interchangeable video game cartridges and the Atari 2600 came out, a whole new world opened up to gamers. We had access to adventures, high fantasy, and space exploration like never before. But one title really ignited something in a few of us: the ability for video games to bring horror to our homes. The ability to force us to face what we fear. Haunted House was not just another Atari 2600 game. It wasn't just another adventure game. It was the beginning, the foundation of a genre that would captivate audiences for generations to come. And in this video, I want to share with all of you everything I could dig up on this revolutionary game. So without further delay, here is the story of Haunted House on the Atari 2600 video computer system. In 1982, we were first introduced to Haunted House. People didn't know who programmed it. They probably didn't realize the technology that was being utilized underneath the hood, or the tricks that was being used to pull off the visuals, for that matter. All they knew was that they were being chased by ghosts, spiders, and vampire bats, and having fun while being chased. Because of this, it seems that most of the story behind the game has been already lost. We know that the game was programmed by James Andreasen, a University of Colorado graduate and former engineer from MSI and Atari. But we honestly don't know who James was. He seems to have little to nothing in his credits. Simply this incredible game and real sports baseball. But this game is notable for a few reasons, outside of being the first real horror experience in video games for many gamers. Haunted House was one of the first games to use player-forced scrolling. By moving up and down, you could explore more of the manor that you found yourself in. Today, this seems like nothing at all. But in 1982, it was a groundbreaking effect for the 2600. The levels were hard-coded into the game and drawn in every single frame. But the item locations were randomized for each time that you played, giving a little bit of variety. But outside of these little tidbits, we really know nothing of the programming challenges or work that went into the game. And to be honest, we know more about the box art than even the game itself. This is thanks to the efforts of books like The Art of Atari. And thanks to them, we know that Steve Hendricks did the iconic box art. But it initially wasn't supposed to be the box art, believe it or not. It was supposed to be used in the manual or perhaps on the cartridge within the box, with the box art featuring a frightened female form over a haunted mansion, with a pair of eyeballs and a spider filling in her body. This art was even finished and approved, but it was denied in the last minute as a marketing woman didn't think it was appropriate to have eyeballs where a woman's breast should be. So, that particular piece of art was too racy for the box art, but perfectly fine for the interior of the manual. Strange if you ask me, but it's one of few anecdotes about Haunted House that I could find. Haunted House was almost titled Graves Manor or Mystery Mansion, and despite the former's relative relationship to the story, well, I'm glad they went with Haunted House. As a kid, I thought we were simply disembodied eyeballs, but we are actually playing as a child who is attempting to reassemble an urn in a mansion that was formerly owned by a man named Zachary Graves. And Mr. Graves is actually the ghost that chases the player through the mansion, along with the spider and the vampire bat. This is essentially all the information that we're given from the manual, well, boiled down to a simple sentence or two. We know that the game takes place in Spirit Bay, that Zachary Graves was an unlikable old man who perished inside the house, and that a magical urn was broken into 3 pieces during an earthquake, and is said to still be inside the mansion, waiting to be recovered. With that, we enter the pitch-black home with a handful of matches and attempt to find the artifact and restore it to its old glory. As I said, you play as a set of eyeballs, and they represent the only thing that we can see of our young protagonist in this decrepit, dark manor. The kid can light matches to find items while exploring several differently colored floors of the mansion. You must avoid the enemies and locate the urn in order to complete the adventure. You explore 6 rooms, and it feels pretty large, honestly. But I'll be honest, the game seems incredibly easy on the first 2 difficulty settings. And of the difficulty settings, there are a total of 9. But trust me, you will find a difficulty that is perfect for you. The 9 difficulty levels can make things even darker, add in locked doors that require keys to pass, increase the frequency that you encounter enemies, and make them more aggressive. It can even change the layout of the mansion entirely. While you play, there will be lightning flashes that help illuminate things, but this can be disabled with the difficulty switch for even more of a challenge. I enjoy playing on difficulty levels 4 to 5 myself, but I encourage new players to start at difficulty level 1, and slowly increase until they find what feels right for them. The player also has 9 lives, similar to what people believe cats have. What's the relevance of this? Why is 9 so prevalent in the game? Well, I don't think there is a reason for it, but it's interesting nonetheless. Outside of the urn pieces, you can also find keys and a scepter that will protect you against the terrifying enemies that you encounter. Graphically, the game is very basic, and most people today will no doubt be unimpressed. But remember, this game helped to lay the groundwork for the horror genre. Something had to be first, something had to get the genre started, and the creative ideas flowing for future developers. Some say Haunted House is the beginning of the survival horror genre, but I don't know about that. It is, however, the game that showed how video games could be used to bring scares and spooks to the masses in an interactive way. Haunted House stood on its own for many, many years. It was the only title in the series from 1982 all the way until 2005. At that point, a ROM named Return to Haunted House was included on the Atari Flashback 2, but this was just a tad bit misleading. This was actually Haunted Adventure from homebrew developer Tony Wong, which was originally released for the Atari 2600 earlier in 2005. It was released on the Flashback by Atari, thanks to Kurt Vendel later that year. This, along with Adventure 2, was one of the first examples of Atari working with homebrew developers in the community. But that's a long story and for another time. It wouldn't be until 2010 and the release of Haunted House on the Wii that we would see a purpose-built Haunted House sequel from the ground up. Well, sequel might not be correct. Perhaps another title in the series would be more appropriate.
Zoinks!
Anyway, Haunted House 2010 was considered a mediocre budget title with some repetitive elements. Critics were not thrilled with the game, and it didn't seem to scratch the itch that Atari fans had for the nostalgia of a favorite classic game. There was throwback elements that people appreciated, but the general public just didn't seem to care for Haunted House 2010. Later in 2014, we got Haunted House Cryptic Graves from developer Dream Painters, and published, of course, by Atari. And while the title shows a nice play on the original concepts, it was absolutely panned by critics for being awful in just about every regard. Glitches galore, terrible acting, awful gameplay, and a nonsensical story. Once again, I don't have first-hand experience with this title, but after hearing about how bad it supposedly is, I think I know what I'm going to do next Halloween. It seems that after the original Haunted House, that there was no steam left in the engine. That Haunted House would forever stand on its own, and any attempt at rebooting it would be met with, well, poor reception, and perhaps rightfully so. But then, a decent homebrew and 2 bad games later, something special happened. In 2022, we got the Atari 50th, and with it, we got a reimagining of Haunted House. And while the game seems to err on the silly side, it was actually a fun part of a much larger package. Once again, we take the role of floating eyes and explore haunted manors, schools, and more. With its throwback visuals and easy-to-pick-up gameplay, this Haunted House remake was a great homage to a formative title for horror games as we know it today. Finally, Atari fans felt that their beloved original titles were getting the respect that they deserve. We were happy with what we got. But they weren't done yet. We got Haunted House 2023, and it turns out that game was pretty good as well. In Haunted House 2023, things were expanded upon the original in the form of a roguelike game style, and it was a ton of fun. You had characters to save, ghosts to fight, bosses to defeat, collectibles to earn, and a loose but familiar story tying everything together. It felt like Haunted House. Well, maybe Haunted House crosses Luigi's Mansion, but the point is that this game was really good. Haunted House has been treated well within the last two releases. I think that many gamers are starting to respect what the original meant for the horror genre, and for video games in general. Haunted House means a lot to me personally. I was between the ages of 3 to 7 when I first experienced and played Haunted House on my Atari 7800. I played the game many times, but never made it too far in my objectives. All I knew was that this game was cool. There were very few other cartridges that let me run from ghosts in a scary, dimly lit mansion, all the while lightning striking the ground outside. It didn't provide any scares, to be honest, but boy, this game had atmosphere. And it would be many, many years later before I experienced anything that felt as good as this one. Haunted House is important as an early innovator in the gaming industry. Something had to be first, and I'm so glad that Haunted House is essentially the first horror game. Unfortunately, a lot of the game's history is already lost to the world. The stories of its development, the trials and the tribulations, the hurdles, all of this is unknown. But what is known is the end result. We got something fantastic. And you just might want to take a few minutes each October and pay respects to the originator. It only takes a few minutes, but Haunted House could provide an experience that you'll remember for the rest of your life. Thanks for watching, guys. It was hard for me to find information on this game. I had to use the Art of Atari book, the Atari 2600 and 7800 compendium, and a few Google searches just to get the information that I got. If you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like and subscribe for more just like it. And if you know any more about the development of the game, then please leave a comment down below. Or just tell me about your history with the title. I'd love to hear about it. But with that, it's time to wrap up the video. I've been the 7800 Pro Gamer, a spooky ghost that haunts the Atari network, and I'd like to thank you all for watching. And until next time, remember to stay classy, Atarians.